Yeah, very much a warm welcome, literally. We're in probably the best spot in the world at the moment, warmest place certainly. It's the way we remember it as kids, and that's one of the reasons why we're back here, having spent some time way back long ago on that beach out there. So we thought a year ago this is a fitting space to come back and fill it with the people we knew as kids. And blimey, down here you are, not all of you, but a fair handful. And it'll be nice, I guess, as time goes on today, a few more will turn up and some have to go. So a few minutes perhaps to share just a little bit about you, or if you like Kina here's going to share something about me apparently. So believe what you will, whatever it takes. But so just a chance to re-familiarise ourselves, I guess, with each other and some of the things that drew us together as a Dutch family. Because I think our parents arrived with the Colts just up the road here, so this is really much our tūranga waiwai and fitting place to come back to. So Yanni, you want to head away by 4 I think, or sooner, so perhaps we'll start with those who have the honour, if you like, of being the eldest here. So I guess with age?
He's the eldest.
He's the eldest?
I've been here about 3 months.
3 months. Alright, so if you want to tell your story, I'll sit down and we'll have some time to share.
Years and years ago, Anneke had to go to Holland because there was they had to rehouse the mother, I think. And there was she was needed, she couldn't do it from a distance, so she flew to Holland, and one of her brothers or family members worked for the KLM, so she had to go on standby all the way. So she flew to the Philippines and had to wait, and anyway, it was a fantastic story. And then she came back, and then a few years later, Dolph died, and she told me that, and probably a few other people as well, that if she hadn't been to Holland for that family occasion, she would have thought to go to Holland after Dolph died. She would have really thought she didn't belong here and had to go. But having been there and noticed that there's still a lot of class distinction, or nobody said, here we can be whatever we want, and if Ernie wants to be a carpenter he can, but there he wouldn't have been able to do it because he came from a very professional family with lawyers and doctors, I think. So that was the story, that she was pleased she had been for another reason, because she knew this was her place and not over there.
Good. Nice one. We'll just move around, I guess. Martin,
Alright, if you sit down again, Yanni, I'll look over the top of you, and then I always tell people that I've been very lucky. Lucky right from the start. I'm fortunate that I had an uncle who was a pen friend with somebody in Auckland. And when I had made up my mind that I wanted to emigrate to New Zealand, oh, I've got a pen friend in Auckland, go and I'll make some introduction. And he wrote to these people. And by the time I arrived, and that time my aunt, who was a maiden aunt who had a heap of money and was able to pay for my flight on a charter flight to New Zealand, I flew to Auckland, and here were those people with open arms to take me off the plane. And yes, I could stay with them, and when Yanni arrived in September on the boat, she could stay there too. And then we got married, and Rich Coombs, New Zealand dad, gave Yanni away at the time. Those were the things that happened in those days. We were quite a novelty when we came to New Zealand. Oh, meet our Dutch friends here, isn't it? You know, it was, we were something in those days. Anyway, then the niece of these people in Auckland, she worked at the plant disease division, or the fruit research station at DSR in Mount Albert. And he said, oh, come with me tomorrow morning and you'll meet the director, there might be a job for you. And I had been in market gardening and fruit culture in working life in Holland. So I passed through some exams there. And so I went along, and the director said, well, I haven't got something for you at the moment, but there may one come up and you can have a job for the meantime at the orchard, at the gardens here at Mount Albert. And so for about 5 or 6 months I worked at the gardens, and then a technician's job came up at Appleby here, the research orchard, and I was allowed to go and have a look. And now Jannie tells me that I should shut up. And so then I was allowed to go and have a look at it. So it means a night over on the train and a night on the ferry, and there's a whole week that you to go and have a look. Yes, please, I'll have the job. And so then we got married in August, and these people, they get us going. And so we then got to at Appleby in December, and I think it was the first Christmas, it might be the second one, that we came to Ruby Bay for our first Boxing Day out together, and we met the Pauls and we met the Buutvelds in those days.
Somewhere out of the sun,
And now we're retired, now we live in Richmond, and
I think you live in there.
now Jannie, I've finished.
We very good neighbours, Joss and Margaret Patterson, bought them out
We
today.
all knew that was
It's fantastic. Yeah. Looking after them. You got a seat there, Martin? Yeah.
Jannie wants to go now.
He promised. We can't let them
Are you taking some pictures? I'll hear the story.
Willie's going to put it on the internet so you become world famous in Appleby. So where did Joss go?
Do you want to sit here?
And sorry, what's your name?
Trudy von Borkum.
Okay, from Borkum. Okay, yeah.
He came to New Zealand in '54, and of course you had no friends, no hardly anybody you knew. You know, the Dutch people soon came round and meet you. But Tim was here in 10 months before I came. He said, "I have a look first what it is like in New Zealand." Because he didn't want to go to Canada, it was too cold. He didn't, and then he said, oh no, and he read a book about Canada and what Australia. Oh, there were too many snakes. No, I didn't want to go there. And then he read about New Zealand and he thought, oh, that sounds quite nice, that's just what I like, so. And he sort of started looking for emigrating slowly on, and we started learning a bit of English. And then he arrived here about a year before I came, or close to, and he thought it was paradise. Oh, people were so open and, and completely different life than in Holland. So that was fine. So I went more English lessons and trying to learn a bit of English, but I was very poor by the time I came here. Anyhow, Jim lived on a farm.
One's broken.
Milked the cows. Well, he had different things, in mind, but he wanted to see what it was like to work on the farm. And then the neighbors wanted somebody in the house. They wanted somebody to work for them. And when they found out that I was going to come, oh yes, I was going to meet them the next Sunday. So we went up there and met them. And there I got the shock of my life, because it was Harold. He was a farmer with a pair of little short and nothing on the top. I have never seen anything like that. So and I thought, oh my God, I don't think I want to work here. Anyhow, I went inside there, and she was very, very nice. She was exactly my age, and she had 2 children. So, and the little children were nice. And soon they found out when I started working there that I was at home in Holland. I did a lot of sewing, you know, clothes, making frocks and things. And so she said, you know, I saw her machine. My God, I had a singer machine at home, and well, we had 2 singer machines in our room in Holland, but I came here and had a Bernina one, automatic. Got buttonholes I could do. I couldn't believe it, you know. I had so many things that I wanted to go by machine. I did all the work in the house, and I wanted to go behind the machine all the time. And she saw that I was quite keen, so I made children frocks, and they all loved it, and you know, and goes word to the neighbors, and the neighbors wanted me to make things, and one thing and another, and I did a lot of sewing there, and I usually work in daytime, you know, and even at night, you know, when Jim came up, or Jim sometimes goes shooting, and you know, for rabbits or something, or whatever it was. And when he came, I was always sitting behind the machine. But I just loved it because there was a machine, but you know, something what you, well, I thought we had a good machine in Holland that worked good, but it was not automatic like that. So my machine was alright when we, when the box arrived with my machine. My mother gave me a fast machine. Yes, and it was one of the good, you know, good quality machines. But it was not even talked about automatically. I said, I'll get you a good machine. And I put it in a box and I took it with me. When I came in Holland, when I came here in New Zealand, Mr. Dodge where I worked for, he showed the machine, and there was I had to do it with hands.
Yeah.
He said, he took straight away that thing off and got a motor on it. Unbelievable, I never had that thing, used that machine by hand, you know, but it was something, well, they special when you would think you go to a back country, you know, and you don't have the laptop, because my mother-in-law asked, have they got tables? Have they got chairs? Tables. And so I used I'm trying to think what I was.
Join the club.
So many things. You know, you get so many things sometimes when it comes up to you. And, but anyhow.
So it sounds like you've had a pretty dramatic sort of start.
It was.
Yeah.
Quite hard, because it's not like these days when they can just see each other and just talking to them. You know, so when we sent a letter, about 2 months later you get an answer and you get photos and things, you know, and it was really quite lonely, you know, very lonely. And but we had a good when we there. I worked for Dutchies for about a year there, and then we found Jim wanted to go shear milking, and he got an offer. He put in, you know, he asked, he applied for an offer in here. they had 35 people want that job, and he said he got the job. So we had to go to Banks Peninsula. We lived in Banks Peninsula for 2 years. And from there we had to we moved because Jim was not used to the like in Holland.
Oh, yeah.
Climbing the hills and then something carrying on his shoulders and quite steep where we were, you know, quite steep. And he said, I got enough of this for 2 years, that's enough for me. So he said, well, I'll find another job. So he got another job as he wants to learn more about sheep and things, you know. He went to a sheep farm and we had done that and
Almost needs time.
We got married. Well, we have been I've been 2 years on the farm where we were, and then Jim was next door on the farm, worked there on the cow's farm, and then we got married and lived in Nelson-Tasman Bay.
Okay.
And Jim got a job there, and then from there on, you know, it was so, you know, shifting from one place. He had really hard climbing the hills. He was not used to in Holland, so, and he found that very, very hard.
You ended up in Harakiki, yeah?
Oh.
You ended up in Harakiki?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where you are now?
No, that's where they were before they...
Yeah, okay,
No, we Redwood Valley.
You're up on the hill.
So,
Looking at a good spot.
Okay, yes.
That's just about it, you know.
Okay, yes, very familiar with Harakiki.
Very good.
Thank you. Yeah, I know exactly where.
No, I'm not the next one.
Well, if you can just say who you are, and if you wanted to sell something, you're welcome. And if you wanted to just say, no, I'll listen to the others, it's over to you.
I came out in 95. Marty came out in 55 and I came out in 57. We got married in 58. Debbie was born in 59. So we brought up 5 children. And when Marty came out, he had nothing, no money, no nothing. Ended up in Auckland, Hamilton, and lived there for a while, and then came to Nelson. I came out 2 years later than him, and then we worked in tobacco. And hops.
Right.
Tobacco and hops, and then pruning and military and orchards and everything. And then we moved to Hope, and we had a market garden for 27 years.
Wow.
And then we retired to Ruby Bay, and then 5 years ago we came to Richmond. And we've loved New Zealand. It's been good. I come from a family of 7. Marty comes from a family of 13.
Okay.
So there was nothing for father. He wanted to be a farmer, but we ended up a market gardener.
Yes.
And now we're here, and it's nice to meet all you lovely
Yeah.
people. And that's all from me.
Likewise, no, that's good.
Yeah, you're part of this. Yeah, you're part of the whānau.
Oh, okay, well I'm a New Zealander from way back. My ancestors first arrived here 1860.
One-upmanship.
Yeah, I know, genuine New Zealander. And there is some under the blanket stuff with Māori as well, so I can claim some Māori blood. And grew up in Wellington. And then Anna and I met when we were teaching, and I became part of this family.
Good. Cheers. Thanks, Peter.
I won't.
On the Horiet.
No, thank you. I'll pass.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's my white beard made me part of the old generation, but
I'm Joanna, I'm the eldest daughter of Jim and Trudy, and I won't keep it brief, but after they worked at Nelson-Tasman Bay, they went to the west coast for a wee while, and then after 5 years they Dad wanted to do something for himself, so he saw there was an orchard for sale in Nelson, so he came up here, they had a look around, they loved the climate here, and they decided they were going to come and live in Nelson, and that's where they've been ever since. So bought an orchard, and a run-down old orchard up Flaxmore Road, and worked really, really hard, as most Dutch immigrants did, and taught us all how to work hard. So that we all had a chance to get ahead in life, and you know, we've all been very lucky and very blessed to have such great heritage.
Yeah, absolutely. As a child, I remember Jim's handshake was like, you know, shaking iron fist. And a wee wry smile at the corner of his mouth. Joe tells me he's still got it, still got a great sense of humour. So that's fantastic. Pity he couldn't be here today, but I'm sure you'll pass on our love to him. Fantastic. Thanks very much for coming. That's great.
My very earliest memory of when I was 2 years old is actually in the book Adi and I have been writing about our mother's life. Lost in the orchard, and I could see all these big trees around me. As a 2-year-old, you're only that high. Hear the voices over there, not quite sure which direction to go in, and standing there, not quite knowing what to do. It's my very earliest memory of New Zealand. I just don't remember anything about Holland, but that's my earliest memory in New Zealand.
How old were you when you came out?
Just two.
Yep.
Just two. A baby.
Yeah.
What year would that be? 52. February 52.
Okay, so you're the same age as Maggie?
Yeah, Maggie was born a couple of months after me.
Okay.
I'm about 2 months older than her, yes.
John Faber, this is my wife Donna. So my parents was Lily and Eddie Faber. Mum calls herself Catherine these days. Dad died, must have been 8 years ago now. Okay, if I just sort of briefly, sort of give them a bit of a whirl, So, you know, with age, you sort of realise what an amazing thing they did. So coming out from Holland into, you know, totally alien environment, totally unknown, taking this huge leap into the unknown. So, take for instance, Mum, she got engaged to Dad when they were already in Holland. Dad came out on the Barneveld in '51, got a job. Started off in the rye forestry, so the deal wasn't it, that you got supported to come here, and for the first 2 years you worked where directed. So he arrived here and got directed to the rye forestry, so he was planting trees in the rye forestry camp for I think 6 months, and then wanted somewhere, you know, Mum was planning to come out, so they wanted somewhere a bit with you know, sort of married person accommodation. And so he got a job on Hoddy's Orchard, on Hoddy's Road here, where they had a, you know, couples batch available. So Mum came out 6 months after Dad had come out. Mum came on, I think it was the first direct plane flight, KLM flight from Holland to New Zealand.
Okay.
And that was an adventure in itself.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to take maybe 3 days. It ended up taking 4 or so because they broke down somewhere over Arabia. They had campfires and all the crew circling the plane while the repairs were made to protect them from whatever sort of hostiles were around about. They made it to Christchurch, so she got off the plane in Christchurch and straight away onto a bus, so it's like a whole day rattling bus ride over gravel roads up to Nelson.
Everything itself is.
And got picked up by Dad at Three Brothers Corner, taken up to Hoddy's Road to the batch, and the next day they got married in the orchard. So the Hoddies had just, you know, arranged for the minister and everything needed for them to help get married. So they got married on the orchard the next day. We have lots of great photos from all that sort of stuff. And then we're on the orchard for the next 3 years. So 2 kids were born, myself and my younger sister Anna Marie.
Oh God.
While we were living on the orchard. Then they bought themselves tomato glass houses in Stoke, and that's basically where they worked on for the next 2 years.
Okay.
So, you know, with hindsight or with age, you know, you realise just what an amazing transition they made from a life in Holland that was a totally different. So, you know, Dad worked in the plantations in Venetia. Mum's parents were in the Navy in Holland, so she sort of had a Navy sort of a life and came out to a pioneering life in New Zealand. And sort of, the more you look back on it, the more impressed you are with it.
Yeah.
It's got summing up.
They didn't have,
And how they coped and
well,
how they
no
just,
modern communication, you know, that's what Mum touched on, you know, when they left they thought they wouldn't see their family
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
maybe, you know, that was the hard thing, you know.
Yeah.
So, and briefly myself, I worked for years as a registered nurse, and a year ago I thought I wanted to change before I retire, so I'm driving a concrete truck these days.
Okay. Yeah.
Married Chrissy or not? Who's who?
I'm married to Lou Cole.
Oh, see, your fault. Carry on.
Maybe Lou carry on where I left off.
He'll tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And Joe?
Oh, kia ora. Joanna Powles. My partner was Hayne Colf. Yeah, and it was unusual because the Colts arrived really early, 1950. And I used to live, I was born in Wellington, and I used to live at Evans Bay, Wellington Harbour, and the flying boat used to land in front of our house. And the Colts actually came over on the flying boat from Australia.
From Sydney, yeah.
Quarantined, and so when it got baths out, I used to scramble up as a young child apparently to watch the flying boat come in, you know. Yeah, and that's when the Colts landed.
How old were you in 1950?
Yeah, no, I was born then, you know, but it was a year later.
Okay.
So that's where you would have, you know, landed in front of our place, you know.
Yeah.
Originally. Yeah, it was great. But I remember, I mean, loads of stories, you know, that Hayne told and are featured in the book. I think that was more or less one of the first Dutch families in Motueka, because years later a boy showed Hayne a photo of him, and it says the Dutch boy. And Hayne was very not very happy, you know, at school. You know, and in the end he pestered Ma and Pa that he could actually eventually to go, also not from Motueka High, go to Nelson Boys College. He felt happier there, and boarding with one of the tutors there. Yeah, he felt a lot happier being in a bigger school with a lot more people. Yeah. And the other big thing I remember for the Colts was Ma desperately, they needed a house, you know, they were just in orchard accommodation, you know, 2-bedroom places and, you know, 6 kids, and I don't know if Venus was born at that time, you know, but, you know, I just remember the story of Hayne saying how Ma just, I think, took off on a bike one day and said, I'm not coming home till I find a house.
That was after had an argument with the boss.
Right. And she found up behind Laura Military School, you know, the old Nelson, which was behind for many years, the wonderful old house. But I've really enjoyed my contact, you know, with the Dutch culture. Yeah, just really loved it. And the family. Hayne died, it will be 4 years in February. I've got his photo here. Yeah.
Cool. Young.
Yeah.
Must believe.
Yeah. So I think we were probably the first, anyone before the end of 1950?
December 1950?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yes, no? Any takers? Yeah, and it felt like we were pioneers, because then lots of other people came through us, especially the Bootvelds. They were the first to follow us. And
whom, by the way, we'd known already from the war years.
that's and Geerkens, what's his name? Bert
Bertens, yeah.
He died in September.
Oh, did he? Okay, yeah.
And thinking of the Bootvelds, yeah, I mean at one stage there in Lomutri from the school, Lomutri school over the hill to what's now the main road, there were about anything up to 6-7 families on that one road. All Dutch, I mean, and Heringhaas, the Frieds, the Bootvelds, and one or two others. And when I started thinking about the Bootvelds and us and Dolf, your father, I remember the Friday nights when he would they would go to Friday night shopping in Motorweka, and then they'd often drop in by us for some reason. Well, we were the biggest family, and that was always Gezellig, and then your father and my father would sit there and bitch about New Zealand.
Yes.
on and on between the two of them. And then there would always be other takers. There would be single guys, you know, just wanting, feeling lonely and lost, and yeah, New Zealand really is bloody hopeless, isn't it? And us kids would say, well, what the hell are you doing here? Yeah. So it was a very close community at that time. That's the main thing I remember from those early 50s. And even though, yeah, I mean, they were just. I was 9, 10 at the time, but I always had my ears open, and there were always plans how they were going to make big money.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Your father and my father.
Didn't work there.
One disaster after another. As they, when my mother just got really, every time that the few dollars they had, a few pounds they had, which was next to nothing. Tora would say, "Oh, for God's sake, let's just stay on that weekly wage, however poor it is. It's at least we know it's coming." And yeah, so they were very special times, and yeah, I remember them. I still, yeah, I have lots of memories from the 50s. And yeah, so it was. Yeah,
cool.
It was great.
Karina. Awesome. Thanks, John.
So, my name is Karina Pagaya, but my maiden name is Van Worken. So Trudy is my mum, Jo's my big sister, and I remember when I was a child, I was about 5 years old and going to school, and the teacher asked me to dictate a little story to her. And no big deal, that was easy. So I told her my story about how I played in the Hokia and something, and she suddenly stopped. The what? I said, the Hokia. The what? She asked 3 times, and finally she said, I'm sorry, I don't know. And at that point I thought, this is really weird, this teacher is dumb. And so anyway, I went home and I said to Mum, I was telling the teacher my story, and she couldn't write it. She couldn't write it down. And so Mum said, what did you say? I told her about the Hokia. Mum laughed. She said, oh, that's a Dutch word. So that was probably my first actual understanding that there was a Dutch and an English language. Everything was just mixed.
Yep.
And by the time I came along, they decided they should use English, so that Mum would learn English, and so I heard more English. But you know, when I was travelling in Vienna one time, I met this Dutch priest, and he's like, Dutch, you're Dutch, and it was a little bit embarrassing because when I fished around for words, I only knew a few words, and he wasn't very impressed when I said I knew potverdomme. I remember getting lots of gifts from Holland in the early years that they'd send out these special lollies and things and treats. And, so we did feel some kind of connection, but it was certainly, as Mum said, it was really different because we didn't have the technology like today. But I'll finish with one little joke that Dad, who's 92, who's bedridden, told me just a week or two ago. Because I said every day we need a joke, and he likes that. So if we can't find a joke or can't think of a joke, I'll find one online, and we find all kinds of interesting Dutch jokes and jokes from anywhere. But this was Dad's own joke at 92. He said, "Why are the Dutch so tall?" And I've asked a few Dutch people, and I've got different answers. None of them are right. So why are the Dutch so tall? Dad said to keep the heads above the water. So he's still got his
That's always good. Robert.
I'm Robert Woprace. So my father Bill Woprace and mother Elizabeth Woprace, they wanted a better life in New Zealand, and they left Holland in 1951, and they arrived on the ship Sabayak.
You know the one.
In Wellington in 1952.
Yeah.
And they came down to Christchurch, I think, straight away. And father got a job in Ashburton in the woolen mills. They got married there, and then in the mid 1950s they came up here, and they got a job. Father got a job at Lyman Marble, the fruit growers chemical. And they, I'm not sure whether they were living in Ruby Bay, but they were living in Mapua, and then they shifted to Richmond in 1960. So we had 5 boys. There's Anton, he's died, Paul, Henry and Peter, and we got to know a lot of the other Dutch families around here because through the Catholic Church, so the Bootvelds and the Verdants. And yes, that's basically the history.
I used to babysit for you.
Yeah, Paul and Anton and I used to go climbing in the Richmond Hills. And both the boys saved me once from hypothermia. Ever grateful for those boys who were well into their mountaineering, and it was pleasure to be with them. Really quite fantastic. Pity Anton died as a Mount aspiring alpine guide. Yeah.
How long ago, Ernie?
How long ago was that, Robert?
About 10 or 12.
Yeah, pretty while ago.
Good year's day. That'll be hard.
Lou?
Loudewijk.
Loudewijk.
No, pretty close enough. I'm the youngest of us 5 boys, Colf boys. Always got the rough end of the deal, but not too often.
I was getting the blame for it.
I came out to New Zealand when I was 4 years old, and I wish I'd been a bit older like they were. I would have remembered a bit more of the trip, but I didn't remember too much of it. I sort of had glimpses of things happening in Holland, I think, because I had little villages. I've had glass all my life. So I had these villages when I was a year or 2 old, I suppose. And we used to go for annual, or whatever it was, holiday to Schelling with the old brown tent. And I remember enjoying times, having glimpses of it, enjoying the time over there. We came back on the ferry, I think it was, and I looked over the side and my little villages disappeared into the tide, and so my parents said, "That's all right, the seagulls will pick it up again and you'll be right." So that was a sort of bit of memory I had of Holland. And then the trip out, you just get again glimpses at 4 years old. Like I think I can sort of remember going through Port Side, and then we went to, and then we came to Australia, and we were held there under quarantine, I think it was, with measles. So we had to stay in Melbourne, I think it was, for about another 6 weeks or 2 months or something like that. And that's right. And then I think everything was delayed, so then we had to find some more money to come across the Tasman to New Zealand, and we got here on Christmas Day, I think it was 1950, something like that. There was no way of getting to Nelson because father had organised accommodation here.
Because he was out ahead of us, not to
He
forget.
was on ahead of us, And so we all had to somehow or other they managed to get some Aero Club planes together. And I think there's 2 or 3 planes that get our whole tribe across the Cook Strait. And ours, my mother said to Hayne, oh, I think there's a bit of a rattle there. The door's not closed properly. So we're too scared to open the door at that point, so we just hung on for dear life while it rattled away, but eventually we landed safely
All there was the aerodrome in those days. There was only an aerodrome.
Yeah, actually I was thinking that thing Joe said about the flying boat landing in Miramar in Lyell Bay, I think it was. I still remember coming through, I think it was Teal, Tasman Empire Airways, I think it was. And we came, and I just can remember that so clearly. We were waited upon and served with the guys with uniforms and hostesses and everything. It was really an upmarket thing, and that sort of stayed in my mind quite a bit too. So we came to Nelson, and I got used to things, but being sort of the first one that I wasn't quite sure whether it was Dutch or New Zealand, and so I immediately tried to acquire the Dutch accent, and then I just thought I'd go with the flow, don't make waves, and this sort of thing. And for example, I think some were called square heads, because of soccer in those days, of course, you played rugby. There was no such thing as soccer or football in those days. So I just lay low and got through all right. And the 2 brothers helped me when I went to high school. I think in the 3rd form we had to go to a dance there, and they kept me pretty well under their wings there and learning to dance. So yeah, but I seem to have come through all right. I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to have had Peter Talley in my class at high school. I got away with it, and when the Bunsen burners were blowing off, he'd say, "Colf did that." I said, "Oh hell, I can't mix that." So I let him have that one. But, yeah, so not a bad place to be, and I think that's about it. Yeah, then that's right. And the one thing I did read about later, or come across later, and I've just come across this book in recent times. I found that quite fascinating. I'm going to try and finish that off. That we were called aliens. And that's now we think back, aliens. We were classed as aliens, yeah, weren't we? So we had a fair bit to get through, and I thought the best thing to do was to just go with the flow, and I stayed in with my classmates and my friends and that, and yeah, I'm lucky to have got through, and 2 sisters were born, no, Maggie was born in Holland, but then Enos was born here in New Zealand. Yeah. So that's about my lot, but what a great, Ernie, well done, thank you very much for today.
Enos and I,
Enos and Willie and everybody for coming along.
Thank you.
That's it.
You want to say anything at all, Hannah?
No, Luke will.
Okay. Luke's our, my eldest. Sitting in the hot seat at the far end.
It is a very hot seat. I'll have to
Getting hotter by the minute.
Well, just in terms of the area and the families, when I was little, when we were growing up in Nelson, much of my memories are around the Omi's house, and I didn't really know a lot of families because it sort of generation missed a wee bit, but there was still that that really closeness, that feeling of closeness amongst family. And it was interesting because we decided last year to go to the Dutch Society in Christchurch, and we walked into the hall there, and I said to Hannah, this feels like walking into Omi's house or the same sort of community, and everyone was, oh, where are you from? And so I felt that same sort of connection. It's only a wee bit, but it sounds a bit like what you guys are talking about. And every time I come up to this part of the country, I feel the same way. And while I only grew up for a short time here in Nelson, that's how I feel. I always feel like I'm coming home when I'm coming up here. And so it's nice now to bring my girls up. Yeah, give them a wee bit of that feeling when we come up. So that's my memory, that's my feeling of here and the families. And then moving up here.
Nice one. Thanks, Brooks. Yeah, and here's my big sister. Hey.
I'm 80 and Annika and Dolph's oldest daughter, and we go, as Willie alluded to, way back with the Colts, as Mum and Dad, just after their wedding, moved in with them. Mum had asked if there was some accommodation anywhere, and at the time she was teaching Walter and Hayne. And Hayne went home and asked his mum, and yes, they could have the floor above them, so they moved in. And Mum helped tour her with the 4 boys that she had at the time. And I think Lou, no, you weren't quite on the way yet. Lou and I were at preschool together. I've got a photo in the book there of us at school in Holland. And we too came out on the Seabayok and left Holland in 1951 and arrived on the 4th of February 1952. I don't remember much of the voyage. We were all seasick because apparently we hit the storm in the Bay of Biscay that the Enterprise was wrecked in. And even the staff, I don't think, had the sick bags out or anything, and I would only be sick in Dad's hands anyway, so I was 5 at the time. Anyway, we survived the voyage. I remember the tomato juice on board because I must have drunk gallons of it. I loved it. And arrived in Wellington, and then we had the ferry to Nelson in those days, but women and men were separated. Mum and Helen and I were on one side of the boat and Dad was on the other, and we couldn't understand why he'd been with us all the time of the journey from Holland, and now suddenly he wasn't allowed to sleep with us.
I didn't know that.
So we arrived in Nelson, and again I think it was a weekend that there was no transport, no nothing. So I think in the end we took a taxi out to Marieri here where we were coming to, near the Colts. It was lovely. And I remember of my youth of walking with Willie and Lou to school at Tasman, up and over the hill, through the forest, across the mud flat to Tasman School, and back again at night.
At first here, eh?
Yeah. At Tasman School. That's where we started. And of course I didn't speak any English. I don't suppose you did either. And so it was quite a difficult time. And I ended up in hospital very soon after we arrived because the Colts had a fantastic hill. You could go down and zoom up the other side, so I did that on my scooter, but only got to the bottom, didn't I, and broke my leg. So Hayne actually piled me on his bike and brought me home. And I spent 2 weeks in Nelson Hospital not speaking a word of English and absolutely hating it.
Oh, God, imagine it.
Yeah, so that was a bit difficult. But the best thing I remember is the parties we had at Colf's place. One thing I wanted to say was that we used to be invited into the boys' bedroom for a plane ride.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so you'd go in blindfolded, they'd blindfold you, open the door and let you into the bedroom. Now step up onto the steps, and stepped up on the step. Now hold on tight so you were holding somebody's hand, and you're going higher, you're going higher, you're going higher, and in the meantime your hands are way down here. Oh, the plane's going to crash, jump. And of course you're only that far up. So you're landing with a big bang. Yeah, I remember doing it. And the other thing I loved was when we sat around the table for meal times, and we used to sing a song about the orchestra and everyone.
Oh yeah. The Rommel.
So I want to know the tune of that because I've forgotten it.
Well, we'll try it a bit later.
Yeah. And the other thing was the bonfires and the visit of.
Oh yeah.
So I've got the whole costume here plus Svarte pizza.
Oh yeah.
So if anyone wants to dress up for fun.
Yeah.
I even washed it and ironed it. There you go. And I think it's got the staff as well, yes.
Yeah.
And who was Santa Claus? Was it Umkees, your pa? Or
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. I
They
think.
have tunes.
Yeah.
They had turns, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so there are a few of my memories.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Thanks, eh?
Oh, good one. Bring that along. Yeah, exactly.
You want to carry on introducing yourselves around the corner? Yep.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I'm now Omani, but I was Laurie, and so I'm 80's eldest. And much like Luke said, as we're first cousins, was just memories of childhood always coming up to this area, whether it was in Richmond or around about. I think also I spent 1 year living with my grandma when I was first teaching, what would that be? 1999 I think it was. And so during that time we did a lot of visiting of the various families around about the place, and I was always trying to peg together some sort of family tree for everybody, but never happened. So
you encouraged Ormy to write down some of her memoirs.
I did encourage her to write some things down, so yeah, it's part of the start of the book came. And this is my eldest daughter, well, only daughter, Rebecca.
My granddaughter.
Well, I'm David Briskin and I'm married to Helen and I'm New Zealand. New Zealander. And the first thing I remember about Dutch immigrants was they came to school in 1955 and we were all jealous because they had cuffs on their shorts. And I thought that was so flash, you couldn't buy cuffs on their shorts. All we had was cut off denim things, you know. And anyway, as time went by, I ended up getting married to Helen. And I remember them talking about the Colts. I met your mum and dad, they called them Ma and Pa, many years ago. And I heard a lot about Peanut. Now, after 35 years, I finally met her, and now I know what Peanut is, or who she is, or how I am. So that solved one little mystery. It's about me.
Thanks, David. There she is, Peanut.
Nice one. Martin, perhaps I could tell you about the flight when I came from Amsterdam to New Zealand. Well, we, of course, the first time we did is from Amsterdam to Rome, landed there, stayed there overnight. Then we went from Rome to Cairo, stayed another night there. Then we went to Abadan, Karachi, Calcutta.
Stopped each time?
Yes, we did, yeah. And then we stopped somewhere right in the middle of Australia. And there was nothing, there was no city there. There was only millions of sandflies or whatever. Yeah. So that was 1955.
Tell me, was your trip like most of the Dutch, that you came out on assisted passage or not?
No, my father paid for it.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
but I mean, wasn't it possible already in those days?
Yes, I'm sure they did,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
But then I think he was more or less told where to go when you got to New Zealand, and you had to work there for half a year or for a year before you could move on.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I was free to do whatever I liked.
Okay, okay, yeah.
So you had no job?
So, no job. But,
okay,
yeah, of course I landed in Auckland, and the next day there was a bus standing there in Auckland, and somebody said to me, he said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I don't know." He said, just go on the bus. So that's how I landed in Hamilton, yeah. No job though.
That's beautiful.
And there was quite a few on it, but all the other ones, there was people waiting for them. You know, they would go to a farm or, into building or whatever. Yes, not me. I was free. Yes.
You had
and
enough
I think,
money for 3 days.
Yeah, I think you was only allowed if you had 10 pounds a year. Yeah, 10 pounds you had to have.
Okay.
And I stayed one night in a boarding house in Hamilton, and I think that cost me already £2, so I had to find a job rather quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did. The next day I think I went to church and said, "Oh, would you like a job? You can start tomorrow."
Okay. Yeah.
Amazing. It was so easy to get a job then, isn't it?
What was the job?
Working in, somebody would grow roses.
Pruning roses?
Yeah, no, hoeing.
A quickly job?
Yeah, that was all right. Yeah. Yeah, that's me done. Yes, thank you.
We've heard Nellie and Veronica.
Yes, so I'm the second youngest of Mum and Dad's 5 children. And I think I won't talk so much about me, but I guess Mum and Dad, in terms of they've alluded to the fact that how resourceful they were when they came over here, which they have always been. Dad and Mum both came from dairy farms and never worked in market gardens, so I think it's phenomenal in terms of what they did coming here, not being able to speak English. The fact that Mum came over 2 years after Dad, and so in that time they never saw each other, but she came over, they got married straight away. They biked everywhere, so that was quite amazing. You just biked, and then yeah, I think you ended up in first in Nelson working for the Italians in tomatoes.
Yeah, we stayed there 5 years, that's right.
5 years, and then when you got enough money together, you bought the property out in Hope.
That's right.
And when we talk about the property, it was just rocks. I just remember there were just piles of rocks. He spent a lot of time just trying to get the rocks out of the ground, but phenomenal. Like Mum and Dad worked. I guess that's sort of what I know from all Dutch people, is that they're extremely resourceful, hard-working, and yeah. It's amazing what you've done.
Resilient.
Yes, resilient is actually a very good word. So yes, I feel extremely proud of my parents and grateful for my upbringing. Living on a market garden was a lot of fun out in the country and Hope. So thanks.
I'm picking cucumbers when you get
Yes, we worked through it.
Graham.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm married to Adi, the eldest daughter of Anneke Boetveld and Dolf, and I came to Nelson in '68 and was generally showing off around the place to see if I met with everybody's approval. That's the extended family. But my Dutch heritage, of which I had none, does go back before then, because my parents sponsored a Dutch girl from Groningen to come and be our housekeeper au pair back in the 50s, because her fiance was working on a farm in the area and he needed that sponsorship for his fiance. And she couldn't speak a word of English when she arrived, except panne, in the saucepan. And so we proceeded to teach her English, good, bad and indifferent. So she was staunch Catholic, so Godverdomme didn't come up. But she did teach us all the words of Daarbij Molen. So as a 10-year-old and my brother as 9-year-old, we were trotted to birthday parties and made to stand up and sing Daarbij Molen in Dutch, much to the enjoyment otherwise of the locals. Elder and Harry are still alive in Rangiora in a bejaardenhuis, whatever it is, and although Elder's had a stroke, she's always very pleased to see us, and so she kind of broke the ice. So I remember when Anneke, Adi's mother, came to Oamaru for the first time where we were living. This is before the wedding. We went for a drive up the Waitaki Valley, and everybody getting bored, so I broke out into a few Dutch songs that I knew, and she nearly fell out of the car. But anyway, so it went from there. We had a lovely wedding in 1971 in Richmond, Nelson, and a lot of you folk would have been there, or we would have been trotted around. We've got 4 grown up family now, and 3 of them are all in our area of Rangiora, and one's in Wellington, soon to go to Australia. But the Colf's New Year was indeed a festive occasion.
Sounds great.
Big bonfire. With the oliebollen on the stove, the bonfire down below, and bottles of beer disappearing under gorse bushes all over the place, I think I recall.
Mulled wine.
And mulled wine.
Mulled wine, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, I would have enjoyed the little contretemps between Pa and my father-in-law, late father-in-law. They would have been great. I probably would have joined in. And I went and lived in Holland for 4 years with Adi, and that's where Leanne was born. and we worked there, and that was a good time of life, and we had pleasure of going a lot of places with Olma Yet. Would you have known her? That's
Annika's mother. Annika's mother.
Annika's mother, yeah.
Okay.
So it features in the book. Anyway, well done, Ernie, for organising the occasion.
Yeah.
It's and always viewed, I think, as being in the privileged position. I'm not quite sure why. If you'd asked me any time why Youngest was the best place to be, it didn't seem so at the time, but looking back now, perhaps it was the best place. Good to have 3 older sisters. I don't know really what it's like to have a brother, but I don't think that matters in the scheme of things. And so when Enos and I somehow crossed swords, we thought perhaps it would be good thing to try and draw us all together, because time's moving on, and the hair keeps turning this great shade of white, and before too long we need to meet again, because for some of us it's been 50, 60 years ago since we last met, and a lot of water's gone under the bridge. So we thought Alton Neil and the Sinterklaas, you name it, great memories as a youngster looking around under the gorse bushes for the beer. This would be a good time and place to do it, because this is the beach we grew up on, really. Stony and sandy, you name it. Very much reflects the highs and lows of our parents coming to a new land. It looked beautiful, but it needed a lot of hard work, and so that was very much, I guess, the story of all of us, really. And hearing Veronica say that, very much true from everybody who came as an immigrant to New Zealand, and that's why all these books are so important to us, because it's a wee bit about all of us and who we are, and also important for our next generation. This is my granddaughter, and we've got to pass it on, Saskia and Vivian, because otherwise they might miss out on some of this, because we very disperse very quickly and very easily, and despite the modern technology and the digital stuff, there's nothing like face to face. And before we lose too many, hence we thought, let's put the flag up and see if we can come back once more to this place which we call home. So welcome back.
Thank you.
So we've had some latecomers, haven't we? Yes. Here and there.
And I have a little story.
Yeah, you're recording now.
Okay. Like everything, I like to try and sort of think back to what was one of the big aspects of my life, and I remember the way I came to New Zealand as a Dutch person, 6 years old, very sensitive to things around me, as having a name, christened name, Hans Willem, or very German sounding, Hans, and only a few years after the war, so he didn't want to have a name that could be mistakenly thought of as German. And also remembering that during the course of really the first year, I did everything like most of us young ones would to try and learn the language as quickly as you could, and very quickly I didn't want anything to do with the Dutchness, my Dutchness. I was ashamed of it in those first years. Certainly it's changed since. So that aspect, and the fact that the other way around now, I amazed myself. First of all, it's quickly mentioned that I live in Denmark. You see, I happened to get married to a Dane eventually when I went to my OE. And so as a result, know that's what. Hang on.
Speak another language.
Yeah, speak another language that as well. Plus then of course the Dutchness, the Dutch being relatively to the Danes, so therefore one as a Dutch person actually finds it easier to learn Danish than many others that come to Denmark. But then the most amazing thing is, for me, is both my kids ended up getting their further education. They were both born in Denmark and went through the Danish school system, but they ended up both doing their further education in Amsterdam or in Eindhoven, and ended up learning Dutch. So it's really crazy, and especially my daughter, who was there for all those 6 years, she still can speak quite fluent Dutch, but she's actually living like we've got this immigration gene in us. Where did he end up living? In Australia. Marrying an Australian. So there we are. It seems to be something genetically we have with us. I mean, my childhood life was adapting to New Zealand, and I became probably the most Kiwish of all of the brothers. I ended up playing the horrible game my parents thought, playing rugby, and actually came to play rugby to quite a high level, and so on. So for me, I feel, and even now, I've actually lived longer in Denmark than I have in New Zealand now. But yes, I'm still a Kiwi.
Yeah.
And I have both passports now that it's possible. Danish and I know I could have got a Dutch one, but I ended up just the Danish and New Zealand passport. And it's just great to come over here for my winter escape, I always call it.
Yeah.
And Ernie, fantastic. Oh, Ian is thinking of the idea.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Woprace, and my parents came in 1952. They came from eastern part of Holland, and they got married here. They were engaged when they came. They came on a ship called the Seabayak.
Surprise, surprise.
They left in December 1951. They arrived in 1952 in Wellington, went to Christchurch, and then to Ashburton, and Henry and I were born in Ashburton, and then they moved here to Mapua area in 1958. Robert was born, my younger brother was born here in 1958, and then moved to, is it 58? 59. 59, is it? Okay, 59. So originally worked on the orchard at the top of the Ruby Bay Cliffs, which was Potter's Orchard. And my father worked there, and then later on he met Taz McKee, and he ended up working for London Naval and Fort Rose Canada, based in Mapua. And eventually we moved to Richmond, went to school there, and when we were growing up we knew the Bootfelds. Mrs. Bootfeld was my teacher.
I was just going to ask, was she?
She was a teacher, and Ernie was a friend, and Ernie's sisters, and other Dutch families around this area. Unfortunately, both of our parents have passed on, so we're the next generation. But thanks very much for organising it, Ernie, and other people that helped organise it. So it's great to be back and touch base again. So I think I've said my part.
Well done.
Being younger, wasn't it? You can just coming around, who's sitting? That's Hayne, is it, on the ground? No, Jan. And Otto, must be your turn.
Well,
Wow.
so
Sitting in the sun.
we came to New Zealand in 1952 and on the Seabayak.
Who didn't think?
And lived here ever since.
Yeah.
Went to the Hunui School, Waimea Intermediate, Waimea College, and Teachers College, and then been doing a lot of things, working in advertising agencies and newspapers and stuff like that. And the rest of the family would have liked to be here, but we've got a party happening. Mum passed away 3 weeks ago, so Dad's dad wanted to be here as well, but he's a bit fragile.
Yep.
So Sister Alice is here as well, and then we'll be staying till about 6, and then we.
Is that okay with Trudy?
Check with big sister.
Yeah.
Nice.
We've got to go, but great idea.
Fantastic.
Just when it came along, out of curiosity, to sort of
What do they look like?
Probably old school.
Yeah.
And,
good stuff. Nice. Fantastic.
So thanks for that.
No, real pleasure.
Who are the ones in the back? The ones at the back?
A kids' set house.
Oh, yes.
And and they built that in Myrie Street in Tahuna.
Off the main.
Just
off the main road, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I just seem to remember going to visit the Moulders in Tahuna Nui, and I wondered, I presumed it was your family.
Very steep road.
No, we were up the hill.
Up the hill.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Always been on the hill.
Oh, on the hill. Must have been somebody else.
The next close to the Coeds.
Not. Oh, the Codes where the Codes are now. They are number 5. We were number 9.
Okay.
Yeah. And the funny thing was that coming from the Northern Hemisphere, you know, Dad thought that buying a house on the hill was a marvellous idea. You know.
Coming from flatland.
Right. And but the one thing he didn't, you know, sort of reckon on, he arrived in this, you know, in the summer, and then you know, bought a block of land. But what he didn't realise was that it was in the winter. It was actually on the shady side of the I spoke to him a couple of years ago, and I said, you know, why did you buy this particular property? And he said, well, he said they were all £200, you know, wherever it was on the hill. And this was the only one that was left. And he said, apart from that, he said, I don't want to talk about it.
Totally understand.
Question. The kids sent home from,
yeah, well,
from
my father's parents both died when he was in his late teens, and he had a lot of money, and he was only allowed to take a certain amount out of Holland, and so he finished his when he finished his engineering degree, he you know, packed mum up, and I think they were only allowed to take £250 equivalent in cash out of the country. Yes. So they bought a kit set house, new bikes, fridge, stove, you know, everything, vacuum cleaners, the whole shooting box, and of course a whole lot of old furniture that came out of Father's house. And yeah, just sort of came here because, you know, Dad had to go in to do officer training after his study, and he really didn't want to stick around for that. So on the boat to New Zealand.
Was he able to put the house together himself?
No, he had Mr. Strawbridge put it together, and
was
he was
there
head
a
builder,
Dutch
was he?
man who started up a business of those
Yeah,
set
is that right?
houses?
From Sabaya onto onto Wellington. Suddenly, whoopsie daisy, half the house fell into the harbour. It was insured on the ship and it was insured on the land.
But not in the harbour.
It started off being a reasonably small house.
Oh, what a laugh.
Good story.
Biking down the hill from the hospital and got hit by a car, and he was unconscious in the hospital, so there was Mum in the hospital, me in the hospital, Dad in the hospital. No one knew that he was going to live actually. He was in pretty bad shape.
But he did have his thing.
It was a difficult start. It was a very, very difficult start.
Foreign country, yeah, everything,
So things have got considerably easier since.
And may I ask, are you related to the builder of the city here, Christchurch, Spain?
Milder.
Oh, is that Milder and you're Milder?
Yeah, Milders. We've got an S on the end.
Oh, you're the S. Oh, you're the S ones. All right. Yes, yes.
Oh, right. No, I've been. And it had a bit to do with that sort of industry. I always thought I might meet the man. Not yet.
Hey, just from flying in from Australia. Number 2 son, Simon. Number 3. And Lizzie's over there, partner. Dressed in black. Hello, Lizzie! And Erin, my daughter, who's
also in black.
Also in black.
Not really planned.
Yeah, just drove in from Christchurch, so they flew in last night. Yeah. Well done. So we won't ask you for a story at this stage. Yeah. So from here on, I guess it's getting drinks and making yourself at home and
of Nellie and Martin Dong.
Okay.
Unlike most people here, we were all born here because Mum and Dad came here to marry and make a fortune, and yeah, didn't quite work out how it was planned at the beginning, but because there was a drought. I think Dad grew tobacco, and then that year there was a drought, so Mum's parents paid for her to fly out. And what I remember most is how social the Dutch were. And it took me years to realise that not everybody was Dutch. Because, you know, we would go to school, and then on Sundays we'd go to church, and then we'd go to another Dutch family, and all big families, you know, with lots of children, and have lovely Dutch food, and it took me years to realise that everyone wasn't Dutch and Catholic. Crazy. But what I appreciate, even though I was born here, I still feel quite Dutch, you know, and I like that, you know, we have that Dutch heritage, because it is different. Even going into a Dutch house, it's very gezellig, you know, you used to have that tapestry tablecloth and yeah, lots of different touches that make it a Dutch home. Plants and the big things of coffee. Whenever there was a party, coffee was very important. Yeah, so I like it. Yeah. And I didn't personally know the Burtvelds, but I knew your mother went to the same church. And I've come to the Colts later on in life. Lovely Colt family, very good family, social. Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Ladies that came on the bike. My name is Trace. And Francesca.
And Francesca. Okay.
On the bike ride.
The electric bikes are good stuff.
I did a wonderful job of introducing our family. My older brother. I'm the third in the Mulders family. There are 4 of us. Nolene's the youngest. And Trudy and Nolene are up in Nelson getting ready for our party tonight. Ara talked about the hard beginning for Mum and Dad. But a family that also immigrated just before our family, the Bosch family, lived on Rocks Road. Ali and Jill Bosch, they came before our family did, and they really supported our family through difficult times and were always there. So I've actually been named after them. They were Ali and Jill Bosch, and I'm Alice Juliet. So it was a real privilege to be named after some people with. If it didn't, you know, went home, you just went again. It was just lovely. Thought everyone did that until you leave home and find out other people don't. So the Dutch connection, very, very important. I'm a teacher, very privileged in a way that I have got a charity set up in Romania, so at least every 2 years I go there and I go to Holland on the way, and I have reconnected with my cousins, and it's just amazing, because you always feel like there's a bit of you left even though you're born here. There's a part of you in Holland even if you've never been there, and to go back and to be able to strengthen those ties has meant a lot to me, so I've got a foot in both countries. And it's lovely to be here. Thank you I haven't seen you for many, many years at Teachers College.
One phrase I learned very early in the piece was that the clock is in fact.
Yeah, just a ball. Yeah, nice touch. So, yeah, it's time to take on some fluids, I think.
Oh, is that what Santa Claus does? Yeah.
Oh, beautiful lady. Is that from way back?
Yeah, that's the original one.
That's the
that your father or my father wore. I don't know who was.
Oh, they both did it.
Yeah.
So I don't know who made the costume or.
No idea. No idea.
Whether it came from Holland, it could have. It is machine stitched, so.
Okay, yeah.
Nice to see you.
Hardly any winter whatsoever. And I was looking forward to that because of the and the hot flushes. Yeah. And no.
You run out on your camera, have you? Yeah. You're doing a great job, Willie.
Well, it's all just capturing the
But no, I can hear a distinct difference. Mind you, of course, these pins 10 months out of the 12 out of the country, so I suppose.
Well, remember, he wanted to be a Kiwi long before I did.
Yeah, that's right.
And to play rugby. He even played rugby, yeah.
Yeah, I even played at high level.
And Nelson Bays, was it?
Yeah. No, it wasn't before the days of Nelson Bays.
Was it? Oh, okay.
Golden Bay Motueka was one, and then Nelson was another.
You didn't play senior, did you?
Yeah.
Senior Golden Bay Motueka.
Yeah. Breakaway.
Breakaway, yeah, loose.
Loose forward.
What years